Fest has appointed Guillermo del Toro, the Oscar-winning director and visionary director, to be the artistic director for this year's event. And also, Gears of War is currently being penned for a movie for Netflix by Jon Spaihts and with David Leitch attached to direct. And last but not the least, Korean Cultural Center in Nigeria is currently running a film festival to deepen the cultural ties between themselves and Nigeria. I'll be talking about all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Paapa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. So, thanks so much for joining me for this episode. So, if you're joining me for this episode, there's just exciting news all around. AFI Fest is one of the biggest, film festivals in the world, whose organization of such event is crucial to knowing some of the films that are likely to be nominated for the Academy Awards, or rather and also actually BAFTA, or the British Independent Film Award. So it is such a crucial event in the cinematic calendar, so to speak, and several film directors, including the likes of Ava DuVernay and also David Lynch, have been appointed to be artistic director or guest artistic director at a certain point in time for the event. And this year, none other than the iconic, bold visionary director, an Oscar winner, Guillermo del Toro, who directed films like Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, Pacific Rim, and more, have been appointed to be this year's artistic director for AFI Festival, the American Film Institute Festival. So let's delve into the story published in Variety as to with regards to his appointment. And yeah, and it reads, so it says that Guillermo del Toro set as guest artistic director for AFI Fest 2025. And there is him in your shot. And it says the American Film Institute has announced that Academy Award winning filmmaker Guillermo del Toro will serve as the guest artistic director for AFI Fest 2025. This year's festival is presented by Canva and is set to take place in Los Angeles from October 22nd to October 26th at the TCL Chinese Theaters. Guillermo del Toro is one of the great champions of the art form, a visionary filmmaker, a passionate cinephile, and a tireless advocate for bold, original storytelling, said Bob Gazelle, AFI president and CEO. As guest artistic director of AFI Fest, he brings a singular perspective that will inspire audiences of all generations. Previous guest artistic directors for AFI Fest include Pedro Almodovar, Bernardo Bertolucci, Ava DuVernay, Greta Gerwig, David Lynch, and Agnes Varda. AFI Fest will open this year's festival with Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, starring Jeremy Allen White, and written for the screen and directed by Scott Cooper. The 39th edition of the festival will feature a curated selection of red carpet premieres, special screenings, and world cinema documentaries and short films. So that is quite an exciting news that we have with regards to Guillermo del Toro as the artistic director for this year's event, and it is quite an exciting news. And it is really an interesting and big event. AFI Fest itself is quite a crucial event, as I said earlier on, in the cinematic calendar the world over, particularly if you're talking about the Oscars or the BAFTAs or the British Independent Film Award. So it is quite interesting, and I like the vision and direction of the AFI Fest, because it is not just being organized by just the institution, but the inclusion of a visionary director to be part of the event, their yearly event, is quite an interesting take to go by, in order to bring different taste and spice or vibe to the event. I think in the year that Eva DuVernay was the artistic director, she helped bring much light and attention, needed attention, to female directors who otherwise could never have had the opportunity to receive such platform. And that is quite an interesting thing. And currently, the AFI Festival this year is going to be start on the date October 22nd to 26th. So it is quite a prestigious event, which will be held at the TCL Chinese Theater, one of the most prominent theater in, when you're talking about the filmmaking or the film industry landscape. TCL Chinese Theaters in Hollywood is one of the iconic places you can ever find these events being held at. And it looks like the president and is it the president and CEO of the AFI Fest or the AFI Institute itself is so excited. That's Bob Gazales, who is so excited, and he said, he praised Del Toro so much, and obviously his words are exactly what Guillermo del Toro is: visionary director, visionary filmmaker, and tireless advocate for bold, original storytelling, and that is who Guillermo del Toro is. If you ever have watched his films, he's one director who builds the world up of, when it comes to world building for his films, he's one exceptional director when it comes to that. Watch from the Pan's Labyrinth and then the Pacific Rim to every film that he has directed, and you are going to be smitten by not just the characters, that he's able to, the actors he's able to direct to evoke such realistic and powerful characters, but also the dynamic between the characters, the plot, the twist, the story. It is always on point, and that is one thing you cannot take away from Guillermo, from every film he has ever directed till now. It has been amazing, and as a matter of fact, he's been in the industry for over 3 decades, with his first film actually premiering in is a Venice Film Festival in 1993. That is his very first short film, and it did win, I think, the Critics' Choice Awards. And since then, he's never looked back, and he's directed every possible groundbreaking horror and fantasy film possible, from Hellboy in the comic books to original tales of his. It has always been something very refreshing and very powerful. And currently, I think there is a film of his that is going to be released soon. I think he did direct it for Netflix, and that is the Frankenstein film starring, I think, Oscar Isaac and Lodi and a couple of other, powerful actors. And it will be premiering I think, in Venice somewhere. I think, let me see, October 7th. I'm not so sure about the date, but I think it's somewhere going to be premiering October 17th and released the following month on November 7th. I think that is the date. So October 17th. So it's going to have quite a limited theatrical release. And we all know that Netflix that's not their business model, but for certain directors, they would take an exception to that, looking at the fact that when it comes to Guillermo del Toro, his films are always more like an event film, which would likely garner a lot of awards. And I think for The Shape of Water, not only did he win the best director for the film, but also won best picture for the film as well. And he went on to win the Golden Globes. as well as what am I missing? Another, he also won another prestigious award with regards to being the best director for that film. That's the Pan's Labyrinth. And if you care to know, actually won I think awards for Pan's Labyrinth, but this one was The Shape of Water. And also for The Shape of Water, if you care to know, it did garner 13 nominations. I think the highest nominations so far for Academy Awards is 15 or so. I might be mistaken, but 15. And, for his movie to have garnered 13 nominations, that's quite a big achievement. And he's one exceptional director. And I'm sure Netflix reckons the fact that if they are able to release it in the cinema for, let's say, 2-3 weeks at the key principal locations to be qualified for an Oscar, they stand a better chance of getting that prestige that comes along with it when particularly it is nominated. So I have watched the trailer and I can actually boldly say that the trailer for Frankenstein is really powerful, and he's one, Guillermo del Toro is one director who never misses. I don't know whether there's been any film of his that have not been good. It may not be as critically acclaimed like The Pan's Labyrinth and then The Shape of Water and other films that have won him such awards and nominations, but you can definitely say that it is very entertaining. Though it may be horror and fantasy, it's still very entertaining that you enjoy. So I think the choice of having him as an artistic director and the slight you bring to the Wolf Festival is something amazing and different. I think of all the directors they've had so far, he dabbles more into that world building of horror and fantasy. And I think it is quite an amazing choice that they have made. A very bold visionary director, which I think he will steer the direction of the AFI into his, particularly if he's given the leeway to make certain picks to be included in the festival. I'm sure a lot of world building fantasy horror directors would be part of this festival to bring that kind of genre that he doubles in to bear on the festival. But one of the things we also know is that Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, the biopic, will be also premiering there. I think the festival will open it with it, and we all know who it stars. It stars Jeremy White Allen, the award-winning actor from the TV series The Bear. And already there's a lot of rave reviews with regards to that particular story. So we'll be looking forward to that, what's it called? The AFI Fest opening, and see what they have for us with regards to the entire activities and the lineup they have in store. So I personally am looking forward to that, and I'm looking at particularly as to the curatorial flavor he will be bringing to bear on this festival. And I know it will be something very special and very unique from any other artistic director that has preceded him. That you can be rest assured. So let me know what you think with regards to the appointment of Guillermo del Toro as the artistic director for the AFI Fest 2025, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. So we'll be moving on from the story of an appointment of a bold visionary director in Guillermo del Toro as the artistic director for the AFI Fest event to an adaptation. And one of the pop culture things that you cannot rule out is how fans are very passionate about their games. And I'm not talking about literal sports, I'm talking about video games. And one of the things you can bet your money on that when it comes to video games, there are people and hordes of people who are passionate about these games, and they know the intricacies of all these games. And Hollywood or film industries and studios have noticed the relevance of how video games play a crucial role to their success in the business of filmmaking. And in recent times, and sometimes in the past, there has been what is so called the video curse. But in recent times, it seems to be turning the tide in the sense that you have Minecraft movie making close to $1 billion. You also had the Super Mario the Super Mario original movie or the Super Mario movie also blowing, the lid of the billion and entering into that bracket. Well, there is a new exciting development for film fans, in particular those who are fans of the Gears of War, and that will read the article which details more about that project. And it says that Deadpool 2, this is written in the film on the film website, and it says that Deadpool 2 and the Fall Guy producers are writing their live action Gears of War movie for Netflix right now with Jon Spaihts. We are really excited about it. And this is written by Lauren Milici. Okay, so it says that a live action adaptation was first announced back in 2016 when he purchased. Okay, yeah, pardon me. So that is a screen grab or a poster design of the Gears of War. And it says that the Fall Guy and Deadpool 2 producing duo, David Leitch and Kelly McCormick, say they are already hard at work writing their live action Gears of War movie, which was announced earlier this year. We're writing right now with Jon Spaihts, and we are really excited about it. McCormick told the Hollywood Reporter. There's a lot of energy from Gears of War Company, the Coalition, and from Netflix, because the Coalition is releasing a game in 2026. We won't hit that release date, but maybe something that feels relevant to the release of the new game. It's an opportunity for David to do a war film, which he hasn't gotten to do yet, and a bit of sci-fi in his own way with this beloved IP in his own way. It was announced in May that Leitch and McCormick would produce a live-action feature-length Gears of War movie for Netflix. Leitch has several action flicks under his belt, but is perhaps best known for directing Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, and Fast and Furious spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, and most recently, The Fall Guy. Spaihts penned Dune 2, and Dune 3, in addition to 2016 standalone Doctor Strange movie and the ill-fated Mummy reboot. So it also says that a live-action Gears of War movie was first announced back in 2016 with little to no news until Netflix announced in the 2022 that it was teaming up with the Coalition to make the film. The Coalition's Rod Ferguson did give us an update in 2019, stating that the movie will take place in an alternate reality rather than follow a direct narrative from the video game franchise. We don't know much else by way of plot or if the film will take place in an alternate reality or casting, though Dave Bautista has repeatedly stated in interviews that he really wants to star in the movie. Gears of War may also very well get a theatrical release, given how Netflix says K-pop Demon Hunters did at the box office, and the fact that both Wake Up Dead Man and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein will both receive limited runs. Gears of War does not yet have a release date. For more, okay, so we'll check out, yeah. So that is quite an interesting development, and I'm sure Gears of War fans right now are beaming with smiles and are excited, particularly considering the creative duo behind this. And the creative duo behind this particular production are no child's play, let me put it that way. They are no child's play in the sense that you have the director for films like the John Wicks. I mean, he was behind the John Wicks. Actually, as a matter of fact, he did work on the John Wick with the Stahelski, but due to the regulations of the Directors Guild or the governing body, he was not credited as a co-director. But regardless, his company, 87 North, who have been championing action films in this era, particularly in the John Wickses, the Nobodies, the Fall Guy, are the ones behind the John Wick. And he also did direct Bullet Train, which starred Brad Pitt and had such interesting roster of characters in the films as well. So you know for sure that this production is quite special, seeing that the scribe Jon Spaihts, who has written Prometheus, Dune, movies being directed by Denis Villeneuve, and he's written, the standalone Doctor Strange movie. So their pairing together is quite an interesting thing to see. Looking at the fact that Jon Spaihts films have depth to it. If you watch the Dune 1 and Dune 2, it is amazing. It is amazing. We see that a lot of nominations, and Dune 3 would follow in that same pattern. And Doctor Strange, the first one, is quite an amazing movie. For a comic book movie, an origin story, it is quite exceptional. The one that starred Benedict Cumberbatch. So it is quite an interesting pairing of a team to work on this project. And for Kelly McCormick, who reiterated that this is the first film for, in terms of war film and science fiction combo of a genre, this is the very first that David Leitch will be, getting into. And I'm sure from the background he's coming from, looking at the films that he's done for so far, it's almost going to be like a 4-quadrant film, just that if it's quite scary, maybe the rating will not allow certain age groupings to watch it. But I think we all can be rest assured that this will receive such a treatment that no other, perhaps, director may give it that attention. So I think it's quite an interesting combo of a director and a writer coming together. So the exciting thing is that it's been made for Netflix together with the coalition, who happen to be the producers of the video game itself. So that is quite interesting. And also it's quite interesting because it's actually slated for 2026, which also has another game version of it going to be released in that year, which is, I think, the Gears of War E-Day or so. If I'm not so sure about it, but Gears of War E-Day. So I'm sure the hype around the game's release itself would also help put more attention on the movie. So it is quite an interesting, perhaps, marketing strategy that would indeed bode well for the success of the film. Currently, I don't know whether Netflix might give it a full theatrical run to see whether it's going to make that much money, to prove to perhaps the market or audiences that this movie is helping foster or bolster the ideology that the game case is over with regards to game adaptations for movies. And we can see the trend now. It looks very obvious for even the Minecraft, which most critics weren't so in love with, still did marvelously well in the box office. So it is very possible that, well, I wouldn't even say it's a game case. It's an issue of whether it's directed well and whether the necessary promotion was done well to rope in the necessary audience who are the target markets for this film. So I think it's going to be a great release come that year. If Gears of War E-Day is released prior to the film itself, I think, and it actually goes well with the fans, the fans are excited about it, then I'm sure it would whip up a lot of interest to go into the cinemas before it's released in the theaters, so and on the streaming platform. So it's going to be quite an interesting project. And seeing the fact that the development of this film has been long, rumored to be started around 2007. So you're talking about over a decade, almost close to 2 decades before this film is actually going to see the day of light. So I in particular am excited about it because I think some of the most interesting stories you can find anywhere, in which, regardless of the medium, can be found in the games. And those stories, if they are well adapted onto the silver screen, I can guarantee you, not only would you have a lot of hordes of audiences, game fanatics or game enthusiasts go to the cinemas to watch or the streaming services to watch, but also critically, it would garner a lot of awards if they so choose to put it in the position to participate in those film awards. So I think that is something welcoming, seeing the fact that 187 North, in particular as a studio, dabbles in a lot of action driven films, high octane action driven films. And I feel like, or personally, I think that David Leitch as a director and his company, 87 North, being the production banner for this film for Netflix, actually is the best company to do it right now. Seeing what they've done with John Wick, Nobody, he did direct also the Deadpool 2, and Bullet Train is an exceptional movie. So I think that would be quite interesting to know. And I also discovered that David Leitch happened to be, the stuntman for Brad Pitt at a point in time. I honestly didn't know that till now. And I think with him coming from the stunt world, no wonder his action sequences are so powerful and, something exciting to watch all the time. So him and Stahelski, who were both stuntmen in the industry. So it is quite interesting to know. And I like the fact that it's not just going to be a popcorn action film, but having the Jon Spaihts as a writer, as a scribe for this production, will give it some much weight to it. Definitely, it's not going to be a Shakespearean kind of movie, which Jon Spaihts indeed can pen, because if you watch Dune is almost like a Shakespearean kind of a story, and therefore I don't know the angle they are going to go, but I'm sure it's going to have that deep, character development and insightful plot lines that would marvel both the video game audiences and the general film audiences alike. So personally, I think this film, if given the necessary push and to also be in the cinemas, is going to make tons of monies. So unfortunately, whether Netflix will permit it, that is left to be seen. So let me know what you think. Do you think this film, Gears of War, being developed for 2026 for Netflix, will indeed cement the fact that the curse is no more for game movies, seeing that Minecraft the movie has made it big at the box office, and also Super Mario Brothers, the movie, also made it big. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. And also, moving on from a film adaptation, we move on to cultural ties and cultural relations. So movies, as we know it, is not just the art of telling stories to just entertain, but it also ends up being a form of cultural exports. And just as we read books and we are transported into the world of the writer to get to see through his eyes what he has experienced, or through the fictionalization of the characters and the story, so does movie actually materialize the story from the written word. And the Korea Cultural Center in Nigeria has held a festival, I think a 5-day festival or so, to outdoor what they have to Nigeria, particularly the film industry there, for them to also get to know much more about the culture of Korea. Let's read an article that details a little bit of what they have in store. So in the news agency of Nigeria website, it says that Korean Center showcases films to boost ties with Nigeria. And it says that, and is written by Priscilla Osaje, the Korean Cultural Center in Nigeria, KCCN, says it remains committed to strengthening cultural relations with Nigeria through provision of music, and movies to Nigerians. Miss Yeonjin Lee, the cultural events manager of the center, said this at the 13th Korean Film Festival in Abuja. The news agency of Nigeria reports that a 3-day film festival, which began on Thursday, featured Korean movies such as Untouchable Lawmen, Sunset in My Hometown, and We Are Brothers. Lee said the essence of this festival is to deepen the cultural ties between Nigeria and Korea through quality and enjoyable entertainment to Nigerians in Abuja. We are not bringing only entertainment to Nigerians, but to show how Korea looks like, especially for the for the movie Sunset in My Hometown, showcase the countryside of Korea. You can see the scenery and how people live there, she said. According to her, the kind of movies they show in this festival cannot be seen in any movie platforms. These are special movies that provide entertainment. Through watching these movies, Nigerians would get to know more about Korea, its people, happening in the movie industry. We will continue to strengthen the cultural relationship between Nigeria and Korea through such festival and other activities organized by the KCCN, Lee added. According to her, this film festival will end on Saturday, and we choose 5 different movies to screen for 3 days. Today, movies are about comedy plus romantic comedy. A movie enthusiast, Miss Ada Idoko, told Nan that the film festival was refreshing and entertaining. According to her, the movie Untouchable Lawmen has demonstrated that there are bad people in corridors of power, and hence the need to sanitize the system to better a society. I really enjoy the movies Untouchable Lawmen, Sunset in My Hometown, and We Are Brothers. Are really interesting. I feel so happy to come and watch these Korean movies. It has also opened my eyes to the high quality of production in the Korean movie industry. We need more of such festival because it is real refreshing, Idoko stressed. Another movie enthusiast, Stephen Ayuba, who said he came with his classmates to attend the festival, appreciated KCCN for putting up the film festival. We had fun. There was no dull moments throughout the movies. Kudos to KCCN and more of such entertainment, he stressed. Nan reports that movie enthusiasts went home with different gifts via a raffle draw. And this written or edited by Deji Abdul Wahab. So that is indeed good news for me all around, because film, like sports, is a way of uniting people or bringing people together. Maybe more so sports, because sports is on a different level altogether, but film in itself is a universal language, just as music is. And for those who watch films, even though the cultures may be different, you can sometimes relate to the stories being told in the film, and that is something that is universal. And from the article we read, you realize that the enthusiasts, though the film were not of Nigerian origin, they are Korean, they still could relate to it, because issues that happen in most countries also happen. It's a human thing, it's a universal thing. So obviously they could relate to it, and I'm sure the quality of those films were very high. Provided high production value that made them glued to the screen and praised it for what it was. So, and this happens actually to be the 13th Korean Film Festival being organized in Abuja, and it's quite interesting. And sometimes you don't get to know some of these things till some of these events happen and you get to report it. And I'm excited about it, and I'm happy. And it's quite a good approach to building or deepening cultural ties with Nigeria, seeing that Nigeria is the dominant force of filmmaking in Africa, and also the third in the world after Bollywood and Hollywood. So it is actually a very smart approach by the Korean Cultural Center in Nigeria to speak the language of Nigerians, to bond with them on that front. And I think that is quite a fascinating and interesting approach to go about it. And also, I think Miss John Lee also said, I mean, she stressed on that fact. We are doing this to deepen the cultural, ties between Nigeria and Korea. And I think that is such a good thing to show them how Korea looks like. And maybe I think going forward, I don't know whether there's something they have in mind, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some Nigerian filmmakers, maybe upcoming ones, to go to Korea to study a little bit about filmmaking there just for a brief period, and maybe also have even Korean professional Korean filmmakers from there come share their knowledge to the industry experts in Nigeria. Exchange ideas. I think that would be also a wonderful initiative to take in order to help even deepening the ties further. Even as a perfect fabulous plan, they could even do a film together, a production together where it will be a cross-border kind of production that will integrate stories across the two countries, and that would be a wonderful thing to embark on. And I'm excited about that. If they could do that, that would be quite an excellent approach to even deepening the ties further. And also moving on, you realize that some of the people who attended were very fascinated about Korean movies. I must say, ever since I watched Parasite, I was floored by that film, the approach to the films. I don't know whether there's been several films from Korea, but Parasite, I was so enamored by Parasite, the way the storytelling was approached. And I mean, several films from that country have been blowing my mind. I can tell you for that fact. And not just that, but the K-pop, movement is taking the world by storm. And Koreans are one of the interesting, powerful filmmakers you can ever find on the surface of the earth today. They are really the whole Asian region itself is they are when it comes to filmmaking, they are one of the best, if not the best, in the world as we speak right now. So it is quite an interesting initiative to bond with a country that is known to be a hub of film, and that is Nollywood and Niger. So I'm excited about that, and I pray that they would go further to exchange knowledge with regards to filmmaking, and in so doing, it will benefit Africa as a whole. Because if the production value of Nigeria in all regard is elevated to a level where it can contend squarely with that of the Koreans and any other part of the world, that would bode well for Africa as a whole. And personally, I'm excited about the idea of this, building that cinematic landscape and the soft power in terms of filmmaking between these two countries. I mean, already Korea has a well-established film industry, but I think we can tap from our side as Africans, we can tap and learn a lot more for our industry to build a very powerful film industry in Africa, not just Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. Yeah, so I think it's quite an interesting approach. And so I mean, let me know what you think with regards to this initiative. There's been the 13th Korean Film Festival organized in Abuja to share, to deepen the cultural ties between Korea and Nigeria. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. But in general, I must say that these three stories are quite powerful. To have a bold visionary director in the person of Guillermo del Toro being the artistic director for this year's AFI Film Festival is quite an interesting pick. I must say, very, very interesting pick. And I think deservedly so. He's one of the best that I'm glad they went for. And also, as an adaptation, I think more than ever, for the big studios in Hollywood to get people coming back to the cinemas or onto their streaming service, picking a video game as a source material for a film, I think is the right way to go. And also, what a wonderful way to have, film be a cultural diplomacy platform to deepening the cultural ties. It's quite an interesting story for this episode of the Film Mandate. So all too soon, I've come to an end to this live stream. And just as I've been saying, every Sunday to Thursday from 11:45 p.m. GMT, I do live stream on this platform. So don't forget to join me on another day for such. And also don't forget to subscribe for more global film analysis. And you can also follow me on TikTok at the Film Mandate. So just make sure that you come here every time 11:45 p.m. GMT from Sunday to Thursday live stream, and let's talk more about movies. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Paapa Otu, and I'll come your way again with another episode tomorrow. I'll see you soon.